I don't have it on here, but a similar concept is state-dependent memory. And this is the idea that if you're encoding information in a happy mood, that when you want to remember this, you should be in a happy mood as well. It's the state. Here, the state is the context, and a context can really be anything. So, I've mentioned before that we have one law in psychology, and that's the law of learning. And this law proposes or states that when we practice information, we're going to have stronger memory performance and function. Similarly, when we stop practicing information, we don't remember it. So it's as simple as that. So as memory is practiced, it is strengthened. And that's what the law of practice is, or the law of studying, really, is what we should call it. Oh, here's the state-dependent memory. So thinking about a good or a bad mood, if you're studying in a good mood, retrieving in a bad mood, if you're studying in a bad mood, retrieving in a bad mood, if you're chewing gum when you're studying, chewing gum when you're taking a test, if you're drinking when you're studying, drinking when you're taking a test, those types of examples. Another retrieval cue is the position of where something is at, and this is called the serial position effect. And we have a tendency to remember the things we first learn about and at the end. So in any lecture, I know that your memory is going to be best for the information that you learned at the beginning of the lecture. So, for example, our review time, and at the end of the lecture. The middle seems to get lost. And this is extraordinarily important research because when you think of the legal world and you think of a lineup, you see a lineup, and unfortunately, the people that are positioned at the first of the lineup and at the end of the lineup, because of this serial position effect, seem more familiar to people. And so they are more likely to be selected as the perpetrator than those that are in the middle. I also want to talk about this in terms of familiarity. So, in a lineup, we see typically, let's say that the alleged perpetrator, is a Mexican woman. In a lineup, you're only going to see Mexican women that look alike. There's going to be a lot of familiarity amongst the women. Now, with memory, we need something called differentiation. And this is really important, especially in lineups, because this is tapping into recognition memory. If you look at this picture, I mean, of course they have their individual features, but they're all younger black men. And so this is an unfortunate process because our memory needs the differentiation to help us select the right person here. And so this is, again, where the legal system, I think, fails in trying to find a perpetrator this way. What are some things that lead to forgetting? We have two distinct memory systems, implicit and explicit. They are controlled by different parts of the brain. One of the biggest things that leads to memory degradation is brain damage. So this could be a stroke in the area, it could be concussion. Unfortunately, this could include aging. As we get older, our brain shrinks, and so all of that could lead to memory loss. If you're not paying attention when you're studying, if you're on your phone during lecture, those are encoding failures. Storage decay. This means getting older, unfortunately. You probably have that phenomenon where you've had something on the tip of your tongue. That's what the phenomenon is actually called, the tip of the tongue phenomenon. This happens. This is a retrieval error. Everyone is susceptible to having these. And any kind of interference. So let's say I learned something in Intro to Psychology, but in research methods, I learned something that was said the same thing, but was said in a different way. As I'm initially learning that, I could have interference that could impact my long-term memory for that information. And unfortunately, age. Nothing gets better cognitively as we age. It all gets worse from 25 on down. That's just unfortunately a part of aging that we, at least at this point, cannot control. And I've talked about this woman a lot. She is a woman, they call what she has hyperthymesia. She cannot or has difficulty forgetting information. She has a very strong autobiographical memory, so she remembers things that are relevant, the self-reference effect, that are relevant or important to her. So I'm going to play this.
What is it like for most of us to try to remember our lives? Scientists say most of us can remember, 20, 30, 40 emotional events, powerful days in our lives as it goes by. But you're going to meet a woman with a one-of-a-kind memory that allows her to replay her life like a movie, recalling each day in detail, emotional detail. Researchers say it is an autobiographical memory that is simply unmatched. Scientists at the University of California, Irvine, have been studying it for 8 years, and she has kept her identity a secret all that time. But now she is ready to talk on GMA and in a new book called The Woman Who Can't Forget. They call her AJ. The subject of most medical studies are usually anonymous. She's a woman with the most amazing memory known to science.
By understanding how her brain does this, we may help write a new chapter of memory research.
It's got to be just like any reference. I mean, you go to the internet, you look in an encyclopedia, or you ask my sister.
AJ remembers details of what she did every single day since she was 14, instantly recalling dates of news events in her lifetime.
She has the ability in a split second to tell you dates, times, what she was doing, what we were doing, what was happening in history. It's hard to describe.
For her, being able to forget isn't easy. She became a fascination around the world, the human calendar, doctors, journalists wanting to meet her, her voice heard on the radio just once.
If I'm able to cure a disease, it's a gift. But to remember, like, the end of every relationship, or anything, it's hard. But it has formed who I am because I remember everything.
Until now, she's been anonymous, dealing with the interest in her brain, her life, almost too much for her to bear.
She chose not to reveal herself to the world for several years. You can imagine it yourself. If suddenly the whole world knows about you, there's a lot of people out there.
And we are joined now by AJ, who is really Jill Price. We're saying it on television, a 42-year-old school administrator from Los Angeles. And as I said, it is her first ever live appearance on television, and we had a chance to sit down earlier and do a taped interview. Good morning.
Good morning.
To you again. Can I throw some more questions?
Sure.
I love that you don't mind that we keep testing this way. All right. I know television is one of the things that you remember, what you saw on television on the days in your lives. So when was JR shot on Dallas?
When he was shot, or when did you find out he was shot? Who shot him? He was shot on March 21st, 1980, and we found out November 21st, 1980.
What about the end of All in the Family?
Well, that was in March of 1978.
What about Nancy Kerrigan attacked? Something that interested you?
January 6th, 1994.
Oh, Lord, you're right. The LA riots.
They started on April 29th, 1992.
Unabomber arrested? Ted Kaczynski arrested?
April 3rd or 4th, 1996.
April 4th, 1996. And you will see tonight, I'm reading from the book. I take this book and go through it, and you correct the book. And you are right at times. I think I have you, and you are right.
And I told you that.
I know you told me, you warned me, but I didn't believe you. And a lot of people didn't at first, including the scientists, when they first met you. They were astonished too. Let's talk a little bit about what it is to be inside your brain, because I am trying to imagine, most of us cannot, what it is to have your history playing in your brain at the same time you're living in the present tense. Describe it.
Well, like right now, I'm in the present moment talking to you, but I have a split screen in my head where I have a loop of memories just free flowing all the time.
So simultaneously, the calendar of the past is going through. And details like what you had for lunch?
Well, I can remember that. But that's, I mean,
Just
it could
pick a
be
day and
anything.
tell me something you remember for lunch.
May 27th, 2006.
What'd you have?
I had a BLT and a tomato soup.
Well, I want to tell everybody that this can be checked if you think it's just random. Show the journals up here, if you will, everyone. Jill has kept 50,000 pages of journals every day of her life. Scientists say even if you wanted to memorize them, you couldn't memorize them. You can go back and check, and as you'll see tonight, you even remember hairspray incidents and what day they occurred on in what year. Does this mean you were good in school?
I was not good in school.
See, this is inconceivable. You didn't have the ability to take a poem and then suddenly recall it?
My memory is autobiographical, so I could tell you my life, but to memorize a poem or a monologue was very excruciating for me.
Which raises this whole question that we have talked about a lot, which is we all think it would be bliss to be able to remember every day of our lives. Is it more of a comfort or a burden?
It's both.
Tell me about the burden. Tell me about what it is to be able to remember every single painful incident in your life.
It's horrendous.
Small things.
Everything. Like regrets, choices. I mean, I could literally go back to the exact moment I was in that fork in the road where I could have made this choice, but I made this choice. And then that leads to this, which leads to that. And I can't forget that.
So contrary to all of us who can maybe remember 365 days of whole periods of our lives, you remember 365 a year. And does this mean that you actually get trapped in time? Like
I
something in
travel in
amber?
my head.
You travel in your head.
That's what I call it.
Everyone thinks, again, you could take this ability, go on Jeopardy and earn a lot of money.
I could if it were stuff that I was interested in.
But it has to be things that you were interested in because it's about your
Because I relate it to where I was and what was going on in my life. Like that's like the Princess Grace thing.
The Princess Grace moment tonight when I thought I had it right, and by the way, the book has it wrong. A question of those around you, has anybody come up with anything, the scientists yet, that has helped you file the memory away?
No. I don't think they ever can. Because it's my brain, so how can they? You can't make your brain stop. So I don't, short of a lobotomy, I don't really think that there's anything that could be done for me.
Good things just got better. Introducing an all-new third hour of Good Morning America.
Welcome to Good Morning America.
One question I would like for you to answer is why you think memory process do you think is on overload when she talks about these two screens she has playing in her mind at the same time. I want you to add this to your attendance sheet. Okay, I'm going to stop this one right there.